Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Prevention Officer Ben Ransom. Thank you for tuning in live or following up to watch the video later. It's April 2022, and we have a few items up on the agenda for discussion and for education of the United indivisible. As I said, we have a few special guest speakers tonight. But before we get kicked off, we'll start off with a quick introduction and a word from Chief Jim O'Shea.
Good evening to everyone that's watching live on Zoom, those in the audience this evening, and those that will watch the recording of our quarterly safety, community safety meeting. It is the second one of the year. Just to go through our agenda for tonight, our first guest speaker is going to be Kelly O'Connor, and she's the Prevention Services Manager for the Oak Park Township, and she's going to be talking a little bit about their positive youth development program. Also tonight, we have our own Corporal Dan Humphreys that's going to talk a little bit about our participation in the state's Traffic Safety Challenge. Ben Ransom, who you just saw a moment ago, wears many hats, and one of them is he's our elderly service provider or officer. And he's going to talk about our ID Bracelet program that has become popular over the years. Next, we'll have Detective Sergeant Justin Labriola, who's going to talk a little bit about crime statistics and some prevention information. As always, we stay with you as any questions come in online or from the audience to answer all those questions. And once again, we're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to answer any questions that may arise. This week, I actually, before we start our regular agenda, received a couple calls from residents that were looking to have some maintenance done, annual maintenance done on their house, and also maybe have some upgrades. And besides contacting the village on that, they kind of question, how do we hire a qualified, licensed, or bonded contractor for the village? And maybe what's some of the things not to do? And I just want to kind of run through this list really quick. And if anyone has any additional questions, Crime Prevention Officer Ben Ransom can assist them with that. He'll be more than glad to come out to the house and discuss any contractors that may be wanting to do business with you. But first of all, when you're looking at maybe not so honest contractors or those that maybe don't have the highest standards, they're going to want cash. They're not going to want to sign a contract. They're going to tell you permits are not needed at all, or they'll cover the permits. They're also going to start work, stop it, disappear, start again, or maybe they'll show up and they'll rush through the job and try to ask for final payment without anything being inspected either by the village or by yourselves. Another sign of some of the contractors that don't have the best reputation is they leave a messy work site. They're not licensed to work in the village. They have no insurance. You can tell that maybe for somebody, even the larger crews that might show up, they're not wearing proper PPE equipment. They're having all their personnel breathing in asbestos or other type of contractor materials that should not be breathed by anyone. Besides not asking for full payment, they may want to change the agreements of the contract and say, I need this amount a little bit ahead of time. A lot of times these companies change names on a regular basis. Some go get the magnetic placards and throw them up on the side of their truck. That sometimes is a sign that we don't have maybe the best contractor looking out for your best interest. They don't have any good reviews on Yelp or Google or any other search engine, or they may not have any reviews at all. They'll overcommit to work, and they constantly make excuses, and they avoid any questions you may have. They don't have a portfolio of the work they've completed, and they occasionally drive beat-up vehicles with no business markings on the work trucks. Some actually will be missing their license plates or obstruct their plates so you cannot write those down. And a lot of times they just lack the appropriate tools or supplies for the specific job that you're having them bid on. And just what's some of the things you can do. And once again, there's so many, but I just want to hit a couple of them really quick. Check with the village, check references, do your own internet background check. The Better Business Bureau is a great resource. The Illinois Secretary of State's office comprise a listing of companies that are registered with them. And also, you know, have a contract that has ongoing inspections and partial payments along the way. The last word of advice that I've heard many people say as we all watch these shows on TV, the fixer-upper shows, if it's not in writing and signed by both parties, there's nothing to hold the contractor accountable. So that's just a few tidbits, and once again, that comes in from some residents that reached out to me earlier in the week, and I told them I would cover this this evening. Without further ado, Ben, you want to bring on our next speaker?
And on that note, a quick reminder: Celebrate Seniors Week is quickly approaching, and I have signed on to give a presentation on scams and fraud, which we cover a lot of these things. So we can dive deeper in that. And if you're not eligible to join us, then you are more than welcome to call me and have me give that presentation separately to any group of residents or community members that want to learn more. And without further ado, now I will turn it over to Kelly O'Connor. She's the Prevention Services Manager with Oak Park Township. Kelly presents for us. I'd like to try to get her in at least yearly because of all the great things she has to tell us and update us on her great work. So Kelly, we're going to turn over the presentation tool to you shortly.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you for having me again. This is always one of my favorite events to attend. So I'm going to see if I can get this to work. Yes, I do. Well, it doesn't look like it's going to let me then.
If you try it now, it should work, Kelly.
Let me read. Yes. No, it's not. Well, that's okay. I think I can get through this. Without that, you unfortunately won't have the visuals, but that's all right. So again, welcome everyone. Thank you so much again for having me. Again, my name is Kelly O'Connor, and I'm the Prevention Services Manager for the Oak Park Township. And I'm also the Drug-Free Communities Grant Coordinator for the Work Group for Positive Youth Development, which is a coalition, a community group that came together about 10 years ago as a response to some of the things that we were seeing in the community. And one of primarily the data point that we were receiving was from the Illinois Youth Survey, where we had a higher number of underage drinking and substance use happening in our community than we did across the state. So this group came together, and River Forest Police Department, River Forest Township, Oak Park Police, District 90, 97, 200, a lot of community stakeholders came together and took a look at that data and thought, you know, we really need to kind of do something about this because some of the information that we were getting was troubling. So to kind of just talk a little bit about that, the Illinois Youth Survey is an anonymous self-reported survey that 8th, 10th, and 12th graders will complete. And the data comes back, and we had found out that about 30% of our 8th through 12th graders that had completed the survey were consuming alcohol in the past 30 days. And that is coming from the Illinois Youth Survey of 2020. This is a biannual survey, so we're just coming up to another survey year. So we're going to get to see what kind of changes we've had during the last 2 years. And from that same cohort of students, we discovered that 20% had used marijuana in the past 30 days. Some other information that is included on this survey, it kind of gives an overall mental health assessment as well. It doesn't just talk about alcohol and drugs. It talks about mental health, health, bullying, school climate, nutrition, peer experiences. So it covers the gambit of some issues and kind of gives us an inside view of what our teens are experiencing. So just of note too, also because the past 2 years we've had this pandemic that we've been in, I do have some good news overall across the country. Underage drinking and substance use has come down. So I'm very hopeful that our numbers here locally will as well. Also to note, 2020 was the year that marijuana was also legalized for, I'll call it retail purposes, was also something to note, because I think we'll be able to see for the first time the impact that maybe that has had on our youth. So the community group came together and we came up with a mission and vision statement, which basically is that the Oak Park River Forest Work Group for Positive Youth Development brings the community together to identify and implement prevention strategies that support youth in making healthy choices to lead alcohol and drug-free lives. So we kind of identified what the problem was, and then we took that information and we really took a deeper dive into what was causing our numbers to be what they were. We discovered that some of the root causes were that there was easy access via retail outlets, which could include anywhere from asking someone to purchase alcohol for them and or using a fake ID. We also discovered that we had favorable adult or parent attitudes in the community, and there was a low perception of harm by peers that by using alcohol or drugs, it was deemed as harmful. Some of the other local conditions were that we had adults providing alcohol to minors. There was a lack of consequences. And then we also have a social hosting law, which at one time, some of the laws in Oak Park and River Forest were not the same, and our teens kind of understood and knew that. So those were just some of the things contributing to our higher than state numbers. So the DFC is a federal grant that the community received in 2019. It has the possibility of being a 10-year grant. And so this was something that our community also was identified because they could see that we had a group of concerned citizens and community partners working together. So we have two goals, and the first goal is to increase community collaboration across the board. It includes anyone that's interested in getting involved. We do have 12 sectors that are required to be a part of that, and those are our community leaders and partnerships that work collaboratively to increase coalition membership, to provide education and presence in the community, and to grow our partnerships with local government and policymakers. So DFC goal number 2 would be to increase youth participation and engagement. We have a Healthy Youth Peer Educator youth group at the high school, and they do an amazing job under the direction of a staff member at OPRF, and they go into the health classes. They do peer-to-peer education on making healthy choices, alternatives to not using alcohol and drugs. They also do social and mental wellness education around mental health, bullying, and just peer relationships. So those are the two are like long-term goals. And then we also have a bunch of committees that work together, and several of them have a different focus. We have an opioid task force who recently is really working hard to kind of figure out what we need in this community as far as education. There's also the addiction recovery team so that we can raise awareness and reduce stigma with those that do struggle with a substance use disorder. And then we also have a committee that works at the school. We're involved with parents doing parent and community education. We are have many events coming up. April is Alcohol Awareness Month, so there's some community communication campaigns. You'll see us in the Wednesday Journal. We also have billboards around town. We have advertisements. We have a social media page, both Instagram and Facebook, where you can kind of stay up to date to the events that the community, the PYD is hosting. This Saturday is National Prescription Take Back Day. So we will be holding a collection site from 10 to 2 at 105 South Oak Park Avenue. That's the Oak Park Township main office. And I know that the River Forest Police Department, the village has a drop box location as well that is year round. You can drop your unused and unwanted prescription medications there. And we are also providing drug deactivation kits this weekend as well. So if anyone wants to stop by, we are handing those out. In addition, we have medication lock boxes and individual pill container lock boxes as well. It's just kind of a good community event. Last year, the DEA had collected over 400 tons of medications that otherwise would have ended up in someone's garbage or in a landfill. So it's really an opportunity to make sure that everyone, cleans out their medicine cabinets. It's a really good prevention initiative because a lot of medications end up not necessarily in the right hands. Some other events that we have coming up: May is Mental Health Awareness Month. We have a addiction recovery team is putting together a bike and brunch. That's going to be on May 15th, and that's from 11 to 1. We're going to be riding from the Grateful House here in Oak Park over to the Way Back in Maywood. It's about a 5-mile ride, and it's just an opportunity for the community to come out, support those that are in recovery, in addition to getting some prevention education. We also have Parent University that we just held with District 200. NAMI, our Community Mental Health Board, is also a partner, as is River Edge Hospital. National Prevention Week is coming up in May. So I kind of call it the April showers bring May flowers and prevention power. There's been a lot of different outreach and awareness events. We also have a lot of this is all on the social media pages, in addition to our website, which is at Oak Park Township. We also have some other programs that we have collaborated and worked with River Forest, in addition to all of the coalition activities. We have the FACE IT program, which is families acting collaboratively to educate and involve teens. That is available to any Oak Park or River Forest resident. It's good for middle school and high school parents and their students. They can come together to learn about alcohol and drugs, but also life skills. So there's communication skills, there's anger management, handling stress. And we will be starting in person again in the fall. We have been holding those classes virtually, in addition to other initiatives in the community. Ben had mentioned celebrating seniors in May. I know there's a lot of fun activities planned for that week. In addition to, I believe there's a scavenger hunt. I just recently saw the video on that. And that's encouraging not just seniors in both Oak Park and River Forest to come together, but also, intergenerational. I think that scavenger hunt, you can make up some teams of maybe different age groups. So if anyone has any questions, I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat box. But there, again, I think the best thing to do, I'm sorry, my slides weren't working, but if you had any questions about anything that I mentioned, or just about alcohol or drug use in the communities, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you.
We'll just take a few seconds to see if any questions came in. nothing coming in for you, Kelly. So
Okay,
we
great,
can
thank you.
obviously plug people into if they have questions later on.
All right, thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you for plugging the many programs. Thank you for talking about all the great things you do. A lot of things. Moving right along, we will be joined by Corporal Dan Humphrey, who is the leading member of the Traffic Safety Challenge Committee here at the River Forest Police Department. Our submissions to the Illinois State Police, project that we do yearly, and Dan will talk about.
Good evening, everyone. Officer Ransom said my name's Corporal Dan Humphreys. I'm here to talk about the traffic safety program that the department participates in every year. We've participated in the past 4 years, I believe. The Illinois Traffic Safety Program is a friendly competition between law enforcement agencies of size and type. It's a program coordinated by the Illinois Association of Chiefs of supported by a NHTSA grant administered through the Illinois Bureau of Safety Programs and Engineering, as well as much appreciated funding by private entities. So the challenge provides a template for law enforcement agencies to identify traffic issues and strategies, reduce social harm, and improve quality of life. So every year we submit a project here. It's about from 70 to 90 of some of the pages. So they look at, the judges here look at our policy and guidelines on traffic-related issues, the training we receive in traffic programs, any initiatives and recognition we provide to officers for their outstanding performance. Enforcement, as well as looking at our public information education on traffic-related issues. And then they look at our enforcement activity and then how effective we were with reducing crashes. So it's just a quick overview of the department. It gives the judges a good idea of our department size and the department. We have a traffic enforcement officer and then a school officer, Officer Ben Ransom. Throughout the year, provide a lot of traffic safety. So looking just the policy and guidelines, they look at our policy and knowing that we have a enforcement written in our policy. And they also look at any traffic safety training we receive throughout the year. So throughout the year, every year, officers receive various types of traffic-related education and training. So for this 2021 Illinois Traffic Safety Program in 2020, this is about everything in 2020. So in 2020, a bunch of officers received alcohol operator certification training, as well as drone pilot training for aerial photography for fatal crashes and crash photography. We also award officers for their outstanding occupant protection throughout the year and their enforcement, as well as speed enforcement and distracted driving. So those are the four categories they focus on: the impaired driving, DUI, impaired driving, distracted driving, speed, and occupant protection. So those are the main four categories that they look at. By enforcing those four categories, that traffic crashes and so public information education department uses the village's social media networks to broadcast any traffic safety messages, as well as for 2020, Officer Ben Ransom put educational video to show to the schools on traffic safety. We also put out press releases during all the major holidays to notify the public and the motorists out there that we're stepping up our enforcement during those holidays for DUI seatbelt enforcement. As well as our message and speed trailers all throughout the village. We also, every year, we participate in the child safety seat events, but we also provide that service throughout the year to our many certified child safety seat and enforcement for the 2020 year. That was the year of the pandemic. We did see a decline in motorists on the roadway, but speeding was the top violation for which motorists were cited for. Occupant protection, how many violations that you do throughout the year, as well as speeding warnings, and driving looks at the amount of distracted driving were issued or cell phone violations, as well as any other enforcement that we did. We did a pedestrian crosswalk enforcement on a shift level. Saw some positive things from that. At the effectiveness, look at all the last couple of years, they look at how many stop citations, the outcomes of those stops. We're out here not just to write citations, we're out there trying to educate the public on speed and distracted driving and occupant protection violations. Protection and saw an increase in occupant protection last couple of years. We also look at our traffic crash data to utilize our officers to those areas to help reduce and those high areas of traffic crashes. So obviously in 2020 we saw a huge decline in crashes in general due to the pandemic, and so this just is more data and graphs just showing how effective we were with minimizing the amount of troops during times of high traffic crashes. So in 2019 and 2021, we received first place finish for the Illinois Traffic Safety Challenge, and our prizes were $1,000 equipment package for the pickup truck that you may or may not have seen around town, as well as some radar devices, a portable breath test, and a 40-hour truck enforcement officer training class. So just some of the prizes that we received as an agency for our participation and program that we have here. So, with that, I will back to Officer Ransom for the next speaker.
As Kelly mentioned, National Prescription Take Back Days is days, but of course, earlier this month was the second annual River Forest Bike Exchange event. We were in 150 bikes were donated. Over 100 participants took home new bikes. 45 bikes were newly registered with our police department. 50+ bikes were donated to the Working Bikes program, and over $1,000 was raised and donated to the district. Another successful bike exchange event, one of my favorite events to participate in. Joining again next always, quick reminder for updates on the village for community. You can join us for at www.vrf.us. Click that link in the top right. Briefly, I'd like to talk about our emergency bracelet program. We have lots of free programs for our community. I was recently asked to present on this program to other police agencies by the Attorney General's office. Info with you. So the Emergency ID Bracelet program has a simple goal, which is to aid first responders, nurses, and doctors protecting personal information, to provide immediate understanding of underlying mental health issues to paramedics, to assist with unconscious, or to ultimately provide quicker access to emergency contacts, primary physicians, social workers, and psychologists. I'm happy to announce that we have 2 new program participants this week, and one will be turning in at soon. So, just a breakdown of who has been partaking in our program. Problems, that 37%. Dementia-related illness, other nonverbal or delayed speech, which we differentiate from food allergies, 16%. And we have a small population that don't have issues but just want to join and wear the bracelet and support the cause. So let me show you what the application form looks like. And what it is we sign a number, a special ID number, and that bracelet designates that person's information. At the top right is the ID number. Next we have ample space for emergency contacts, physicians, social workers, psychologists, then allergies and medical conditions, and then finally additional lines to explain other concerns such as person doesn't like lights and loud noises, so don't use sirens if you respond here, or maybe preferred method of communication, or this person confuses different things for our first responders to be aware of. The ID bracelet is a simple rubber bracelet within a fixed metal band where we put the information, quick information for our first responders. And the idea is that when someone comes across this band, they have immediate access to the person's important medical conditions or medical information. They have a telephone number and an ID number they can call our department and get pertinent information from if they're authorized, of course. But if someone were to sneak a peek at the bracelet that wasn't authorized, obviously they wouldn't really have knowledge of any personal information. So if someone called this number, the information is not kept by our dispatchers. It is actually only accessible to our officers, particularly the officer in charge, who would be able to give it out to physician or whoever needs. So again, this program is it's free. The idea is to give you quick access, give our first responders quick access to important information to save a life. These are a small way that we can give our program participants a feeling of peace and security. And at the actual event of an emergency where these bracelets may save a life or offer convenience to a first responder, of a loved one, they also give opportunities for our officers to get to know the program participants. So as our officers in this room can attest, some people may not understand what's going on, may be afraid, may not like lights and sirens, and may get angry and aren't really used to how our officers are responding or the kind of have been training our officers in prevention, responding to autistic individuals, and we've been putting programs and training in place to better assist our officers to be able to handle. But if we can get someone, our program participants, come in and sometimes I will work with a parent to organize a tour of the station to give out some like a police pin and police badge and stickers to our officers. It goes a long way to create relationships. Because if you think about it, the expectation is that with these bracelets, the first responders are going to encounter that individual again, likely in some kind of emergency. So we can start out the relationship on a positive note. Maybe when that officer arrives and they're wearing the same patch that I wear at the station, or when a paramedic asks if they have medical conditions, the idea and the hope is that they feel more safe and more prepared to be assisted. So that's the idea behind our bracelet program. You can contact me directly, 708-714-3543 to inquire and take an application. And my email address for anyone who's interested. Now we will transition over to Detective Sergeant Justin Labriola with
home, or is it? I do want to go over just the typical reminders that I have rapidly approaching later. We do start to see somewhat of the years, burglaries. Not gonna lose it. I think that's have a tendency to rally or into have an opportunity. If you already, please register multiple events, problems whatsoever. Urge the bikes get registered with the department. That's the best way. As for recent crime trends, we've had on the Chicagoland area. We fortunately we were able to apprehend that individual who ironically $1,000 in cash that he had at converters. So we were one of the rare departments who had full park, even though they weren't involved and didn't help out, they were still able to get a lead of converter theft. I know we've had some questions in the past, hijackings again. Fortunately for us, although we are still in exploratory stages of hijacking task force in the urban area, we know there are some task forces out there that on certain week they will be mobile, which includes at the problem. In addition to the wedge task force, which is active, we our activity during this activated more often. Saturate some of the areas in the suburbs here, if either it be Forest Park, Old Park, and before.
sure. On the subject of a lot of the cases that we see can likely be avoided or at least headed off would be because due to paying more attention. We've seen cases in the past where people are sitting out in their car, driveways, talking on the phone. Say that you shouldn't, obviously we should be able to feel free and feel safe to sit in our own driveway. But with the increased use of social media, the increased use of electronics, a lot of people, and we've seen crime that our police officers are kind of we're trained in from the police academy is to just be aware of our surroundings all the time. I would pass along information to when you're coming out of a store, shopping center, restaurant, when you're coming onto a parking lot, you should have your head up. You looking around your surroundings. Be aware of who sees you, who's sitting in their car in close proximity. There's checking your surroundings. Also, if you feel like you're being targeted, we should be aware of who's following behind us when we're driving. If you're making turns and cars are following you turn for turn, then maybe you don't feel comfortable taking them directly to wherever you're going to be parking. If that means passing your house and taking another circle around the block, if it means driving directly to the police station just to feel safe and you have an escort home, if it comes to it, that's fine, and we would recommend any of those. Follow those instincts, and the old saying, it's better to be safe than sorry, and our officers are certainly out on patrol and willing to help. Calls occasionally for escorts or that nature. So definitely staying aware of your surroundings, making eye contact with people, letting people know that you're seen. The examples of, or maybe we've heard you act this way, is if you're walking down the street, someone's walking, walking the same way, maybe you awkward. We want to encourage you to look that person in the eyes. Know with your body language, hey, I see you, I'm aware of my surroundings. Hey, with your body language and your posture, willing to call 911, you're willing. That just goes a long way. We talk from an early training. Any questions come in? Are open and available. Chief.
Just talking a little bit earlier prior to the meeting with the audience. Property can be replaced. Lives can't. Please, if you're in this situation, you have to make that personal choice whether you fight or flight in you, whether you area safely, whether it's really the most important thing, just turn over your property. You can get. Another important thing that we get questions on all the time, I didn't know whether to call 911. You're asking yourself, I call 911, you've already answered your own. I'm just to call 911. Always call the non-emergency number. Get those units faster to an area, and your own your stress level, your heart rate will go up. Because you have a feeling that something's right here, something unusual, there's an anomaly going on here. Please, just call 911, something, or hear something, say something. And I think, let me check with our staff. Any questions that have come in? Well, I just would like to thank all the guest speakers that came in tonight, members of the audience, and also anyone that watches this recorded version of tonight. And 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we're out there, we're available. We have supervisors available also to any questions you have. I'd like to make sure we're keeping everyone safe and keeping everyone with regard to